You wake up and nothing feels real anymore. Not in a dramatic way, just quiet. Like someone turned the volume down on your life and forgot to turn it back up. I remember the last time I was genuinely excited about something. Not pretend excited, not I should be happy about this, excited. Actually excited. Like stomach dropping, can't sleep, telling everyone kind of excited, and I've been trying to remember when that stopped. Because it did stop. At some point. Quietly, without warning. I didn't wake up one day and feel nothing. It was slower than that. It was more like things started to taste less. One by one. The music I loved stopped hitting the same way. The shows I used to binge felt hollow. The conversations I used to look forward to started feeling like obligations. And I kept waiting for it to come back. I kept thinking, okay, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I need a vacation. Maybe I need new people around me. Maybe I need to change my routine. So I did all of that. And it helped for a little while. But then it faded again. And that's when I started getting scared. Not loudly scared. Just this low, quiet fear sitting in my chest that I couldn't quite name. What if this is just who I am now? I'm 23 at the time, and I'm already feeling like I've lived through the best parts. That thought wrecked me more than I let on. I talked to a few people about it, and every single one of them said the same thing. That's just adulthood. You're getting older. That's normal. And I hated that answer. Not because I didn't believe it, but because it felt like giving up. Like accepting that the best version of feeling alive was somewhere in the past. And now I just manage. I don't want to manage. I want to feel things. So I sat with it. For a long time, longer than was probably healthy. And I started paying attention, really paying attention, to the moments when I did feel something. Not the big moments, the small ones. The first sip of coffee before anyone else woke up. A song I'd never heard before that somehow knew exactly what I was going through. A walk at night when the air felt different. A random conversation with a stranger that lasted 10 minutes and stayed with me for weeks. These weren't the things I expected to feel things from, but they were the only things that still got through. And that told me something. It wasn't that I'd lost the ability to feel, it's that I'd been looking for feeling in all the wrong places. Places I'd already been. Things I'd already experienced. Emotions I'd already processed. I was trying to recreate something, and you can't recreate the first time you felt something, the first time you fell in love, the first time you got paid for something you made, the first time a trip you planned actually happened, the first time you felt like you knew what you were doing. The first time is a door, and once you walk through it, it closes behind you. That door isn't lost. It just isn't the same door anymore. And here's what I didn't understand for a long time. The people who still feel deeply, not constantly, but genuinely, they're not people who kept reliving old highs. They're people who kept building new doors. They stayed curious, not in a forced, motivational poster kind of way, but in the specific, personal way that only you can be curious about the things that are uniquely yours. I stopped doing that somewhere along the way. I started consuming instead of creating, watching instead of doing, waiting for something to excite me instead of going somewhere new enough to be surprised. I was feeding myself the same things and wondering why I wasn't hungry anymore. There was a specific moment when this landed. I was sitting in my car, parked, not going anywhere. I'd just come from an event, the kind of thing that 6 months earlier I would have been thrilled to attend. And I sat there in the parking lot and felt completely empty. Not sad, just empty. And instead of turning the music on to fill the silence, I just sat there. And I asked myself honestly, when was the last time I did something I'd never done before? Not traveled somewhere new, not bought something new, not downloaded something new, actually did something, built something, tried something, risked something. And I couldn't answer it. That was the real problem. I'd gotten safe. Comfortable in a way that had slowly become a cage. My days were predictable. My responses were predictable. My emotions had been conditioned to expect only what I'd already given them, and a mind that isn't given new material. It doesn't stay sharp, it starts to dull. An emotion that isn't given new input, it doesn't stay open. It starts to close. I think a lot of us, especially our generation, are walking around in this quiet fog and calling it burnout because burnout has a name. Because burnout is something you can explain to people and they'll nod and understand. But this isn't always burnout. Sometimes it's starvation. You've been feeding yourself things that look like nourishment but aren't. Content that gives you the feeling of discovery without actual discovery. Conversations that give you the feeling of connection without actual vulnerability. Achievements that give you the feeling of progress without actual growth. We've become very good at simulating feeling. And the simulation has gotten so smooth that sometimes we don't even notice when it replaced the real thing. I'm not blaming technology, I'm not even blaming our generation, even though we catch a lot of blame for this particular kind of numbness. But I do think we were handed something genuinely difficult. We grew up with access to everything. Every song, every show, every person, every idea, every possible version of a life. And when you can see every version of a life, it's very hard to commit to just one. When everything is available, nothing feels rare. And when nothing feels rare, nothing feels precious. And when nothing feels precious, nothing feels like much of anything. That's not weakness, that's the natural response to infinite options. The cure isn't more options, the cure is depth. Going further into fewer things. Staying with something long enough for it to actually give you something back. Because the richness of any experience, a relationship, a skill, a place, a project, doesn't live on the surface. It lives in the time you spend with it, the failures you have inside it, the moments you almost quit but didn't. That's where the feeling lives. Not in the first look, in the long look. I started doing something small after that parking lot night. I picked one thing, just one, something I'd been curious about for years but had always pushed aside because it wasn't practical, wasn't urgent, wasn't gonna make me money or impress anyone. I just started doing it, quietly, with no goal attached to it, and the first few weeks were strange. Because I kept waiting to feel excited and I mostly just felt awkward and uncertain and like I was wasting time. But I kept going. And somewhere around week 3, something small shifted. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't the stomach-dropping excitement of something new. It was quieter than that. It was just interest, genuine, simple interest in what might happen next. And I realized that's what I'd been missing. Not excitement, interest. Excitement is loud, it's quick, it burns fast. Interest is slower, steadier. It doesn't announce itself. It just pulls. And when you follow it, really follow it without needing it to justify itself, it opens into something much richer than excitement ever could. Here's what I want you to hear if you're in that fog right now. The numbness you feel is not who you are becoming. It's a signal. It's your mind telling you that it's been living on the same diet for too long. You don't need to blow your life up. You don't need some massive change or some dramatic decision. You just need one new door, one thing you've never done, one direction you haven't looked, one question you've been afraid to follow. Not because it'll fix everything, but because it'll remind you that the feeling is still there. It didn't leave, you just stopped going to places where it lives. And the strange thing about our generation, the thing no one talks about when they're busy diagnosing us, is that we actually feel more than any generation before us has had to feel. We feel the weight of the world in a way that previous generations simply didn't have access to. We carry the anxiety of every tragedy, every injustice, every system that isn't working in real time every day. That does something to a person. It makes the small joys feel almost guilty. It makes stillness feel suspicious. It makes the simple act of just being in your own life feel inadequate compared to the scale of everything else. And so, we go numb. Not because we don't care, because we care about too many things at once and have nowhere to put it all. The antidote to that isn't caring less. It's choosing what to care about more deliberately. Letting yourself be fully in the room you're actually in, fully in the conversation you're actually having, fully in the project, the relationship, the experience that is actually in front of you. Presence is the most radical thing you can practice right now. Not productivity, not optimization, not constant improvement, just being where you are in the full weight of it long enough for it to mean something. Because meaning isn't found, it's built, slowly. In the ordinary moments you decided to actually show up for. I'm still figuring this out. I don't have it solved. Some days the fog rolls back in and I'm right back in that parking lot, empty, staring at the steering wheel. But the difference now is I know what the fog is telling me. It's not telling me something is wrong with me. It's telling me it's time to go somewhere I haven't been yet. And that thought, that small, quiet thought, is enough to get me moving again. That's all it ever needs to be. Just enough. Just enough to take one step in a direction that surprises you. Because on the other side of that step, somewhere in the doing, somewhere in the uncertainty and the effort and the slow accumulation of days spent on something real, the feeling comes back. It always comes back. You just have to give it somewhere to go.